Hello everybody! Last week we explored how the WIDA Can Do descriptors can be used during lesson planning. This week we're going to take that process one step further by using the Can Do descriptors for backward planning. When we backward plan, we begin by identifying what successful language use looks like at the end of the lesson. Then we work backward to determine what support students will need to reach that goal. For multilingual learners, this means starting with the language expectations of proficiency level 5 and then designing supports that will help students move towards that expectation. Start with the end in mind. When planning instruction, many teachers begin by asking, what activity am I going to do today? What am I going to teach? Backwards planning asks a different question. What will students need to say, to write, to read, or understand to demonstrate mastery of the learning? Let's use the content objective. Students will explain the causes of the American Revolution. Before planning activities, think about what success would look like for students who is approaching native-like academic proficiency. So a proficiency level 5 student might explain multiple causes of the relationships, use academic vocabulary accurately, support ideas with evidence from sources, communicate using detailed and organized language. This becomes the language expectation we are planning toward. Why start with proficiency level 5? Proficiency level 5 represents the language demands students will need to successfully engage in grade level academic work with minimal language support. Starting with level 5 helps us identify the language destination before we think about scaffolds. If we start only by looking at what students can do, we may unintentionally lower the language expectation. So instead we ask, what language will students ultimately need to demonstrate success? And when we think about that, we're also thinking about rigor. So we want to keep the rigor high. Rigor is not about giving harder work or more work. Rigor is about ensuring students engage in grade level content and complex thinking while receiving the language supports necessary to access and demonstrate their learning. So keeping the rigor high while providing meaningful access is important for our multilingual learners. Work backward to design supports. After identifying the proficiency level 5 expectations, review your students' current proficiency level. What supports will help students move closer to language expectation? So let's look at these two examples. If we have low expectations and low rigor and we're not considering proficiency level 5, a level 1 student might only match vocabulary words to the picture. And then end of lesson, I'm done. The student does not engage with the learning target. And my learning target, can the students explain the causes of the American Revolution, right? Rigorous expectations with scaffold level 1 students use visuals and key vocabulary, participate in a structured partner discussion, complete a cause and effect graphic organizer, and they use sentence frames to explain a cause. The student is still explaining causes, the thinking remains rigorous, and the language supports changes. In closing, backwards planning with the Can Do descriptors is not about planning for where students are today. It is about planning for where students need to go. Start with the language expectation of proficiency level 5. Identify what successful language use looks like. Then work backwards to determine the scaffolds and support students need to reach that goal. When we plan this way, we maintain high expectations while creating meaningful pathways for multilingual learners to succeed. And finally, your PLC discussion for this week or task. Choose an upcoming lesson or assignment. Identify a proficiency level 5 response would look like. Then determine the language supports at levels 1 through 4 that are needed to move toward the expectation while engaging in the same rigorous content. Thank you. If you need anything or if you have any questions, please reach out.